very well welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuloko. How's your week been? And how are you preparing for the end of the year 2011? By God's special grace, we will all be here to say Happy New Year 2012. Did you hear somebody say amen? 2 episodes ago, we brought you the story of the interactive workshop that was held for operators in the hospitality industry and local government officials by the Rumuokuru-Shi Integrated Tax Office of the FIRS in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. That was meant to sensitize them as to their roles as agents for the collection of value-added tax and withholding tax. Now, hoteliers, restaurant owners, and event center owners are taxpayers in their own right. That is, they pay companies income tax on their income, on their profits, while also acting as collecting agents for personal income tax deductions from the salaries and emoluments of their employees. But in addition to that, when customers patronize their services, they are expected by law to add 5% value-added tax, which also by law they are supposed to remit into government coffers through the Federal Revenue Service latest by the 21st day of the following month. That is, by the 21st day of a month, all the value-added tax deductions collected in the previous month are supposed to have been paid over. Now, Port Harcourt doesn't seem to be the only place where that problem persists. We recall that about a year or two ago, the Solo Integrated Tax Office of the FIRS also organized that kind of interactive workshop, also for hoteliers and restaurant owners. Now, on November 17, Thursday, November 17, the Special Tax Office of the FIRS in the Federal Capital Territory, under the leadership of Mr. Peter Olayemi, arrested 31 chief executive officers of hotels and event centers in Abuja. Their offense, tax evasion. Addressing journalists before the commencement of the exercise, Mr. Peter Olayemi said that despite repeated calls, repeated visits to these restaurant owners and hoteliers, despite the service of tax envelopes on them, they have remained recalcitrant. It is expected that very soon, those chief executives will be charged to court. Now, what is tax evasion and its twin sister, tax avoidance? Just as the arrests were being effected in Abuja on that Thursday, somewhere down south in Lagos, Professor M.T. Abdulrazak, professor of the law of taxation, one-time banker, university lecturer, and one-time registrar and chief executive officer of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, was delivering a paper on tax evasion, tax avoidance, and tax criminality. The audience was the 1,491 men and women who were just about to be inducted into the ranks of tax practitioners in Nigeria. Let us drink from the cup of knowledge of Professor M.T. Abdulrazak.
Simply put, how do you define tax evasion? Somebody came up with something which is more ingenious and quite easy, and that is trying to make a distinction between tax evasion and tax avoidance. And he said the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance is the thickness of the prison wall. In other words, if it is evasion, the person is inside, but if it is avoidance, the person is outside. Now, simply put, evasion is a contravention of the tax laws whereby an individual or a company neglects to pay the tax due or reduces the tax liability by making fraudulent and untrue claims on the income tax law. Apart from the Value-Added Tax Act, tax evasion is not really mentioned in any of the tax laws. What you have are several acts which the law deems to be offenses, and because tax evasion is an offense, you can then deduce that if anybody commits any of these things, it will amount to tax evasion. Now, the first is failure to make returns for income tax or capital gains tax. The second is failure to make returns for companies and income tax, and then filing incorrect returns or accounts. Now, for these things to amount to tax evasion, 2 elements must be present, and the law says these actions must be done with fraud, willful default or neglect, and knowingly. When you talk about doing something knowingly, it's part of the elements of a crime. For there to be a crime, two things must be present. The first is the intention to commit the crime, which in Latin is called mens rea, and then the physical manifestation of such an intention. And flowing out of this is what you say that a man intends the natural consequences of his action. So if you're playing, for example, with a cutlass with your friend, and the person is accidentally beheaded, you cannot say that you were just merely playing a game. Because if you play with a cutlass that is sharp and swing it on somebody's neck, and that happens, the law would deem that to be the situation. So the law with regards to tax evasion does not define what tax evasion is. It simply specifies the acts which amounts to tax evasion. But moving on from there, assuming that we all accept that tax evasion is a crime, and it is not something that is encouraged by the Nigerian law, is it really a problem in Nigeria? Is tax evasion a problem in Nigeria? Is it a problem we should be concerned about? Some have argued, and I'll come to this later, that what do you mean by tax evasion? I pay tax, but I don't get anything in return for it. In other words, why do I not expend the amount I would have paid as tax to government in providing those things that government should naturally have provided for me? The second reason is that we need to know if tax evasion is a problem. Because if it is a problem, then what it does is also to encourage a lot of people not to pay their taxes. But how do you know something is a problem? You've got to be able to define it. You've got to be able to measure it. And then you've got to be able to understand the methods of tax evasion. Now, what are the methods of tax evasion? A simple one is simply not paying your taxes. But what the law says is to make certain provision by saying failure to furnish a return, statement or information or to keep records required, making an incorrect entry, by omitting or understating any income liable to tax, and then giving any incorrect information, or like I first said, refusing or neglecting to pay tax at all. One of the problems we have in our country is that if you ask a lot of people what is the extent of tax evasion in the environment, what people are likely to tell you that we do not know. Probably now we may have some statistics, but we all know the extent to which statistics are put into use in Nigeria. And statistics is something that has become more of a political issue in Nigeria. Now that problem is not peculiar to Nigeria. What some other countries have done is to come up with different methods of estimating how you can determine the extent of tax evasion in any particular environment. One of the things they say is that if an economy is mostly cash-based, then you can know that the extent of tax evasion is quite high, because you cannot trace money, and because of that, it's difficult to have a lot of people on the roll and for you to be able to determine whether, whether they are paying their taxes.
Professor Abdulrazak also spoke about the effects of tax evasion on the economy.
But why do we need to know? Why do we need to know the number of people who are not paying their taxes? It is useful because then it affects so many other things. If people are not paying their taxes, a lot of public infrastructure will not be done. A lot of people who even have the intention of paying these taxes are going to be discouraged. And somebody has said that in some other countries, if you know that your neighbor is evading tax, what do? You go and report. In Nigeria, what happens? You ask him, how is he doing it? But like I said, in so many countries, they have come up with a lot of ingenious ways of measuring and even detecting if somebody or an organization is evading taxes. An interesting one is the kind of detection that is called footprints. And it's very easy to see footprints in Nigeria. If somebody is living in Victoria Island, for example, is riding a jeep, is always overseas on holidays, and then he declares his income and that income doesn't match his lifestyle, then the question is, where is the money coming from? He must be dodging something. A lot of people will say they inherited it. And what the tax authorities should do is to go to this person that you inherited it from who? And then you give the name of the person, and then they go on and do their normal audits. In economic terms, the damage that tax evasion does to the economy, surprisingly, is more. In terms of economy, the damage that will be done by the large number of Nigerians that are not paying their taxes. But it happens in other countries. It's very easy to detect tax evasion. Nigeria is a cash economy, and almost everything we do is cash. And it is a sign of affluence for somebody to tell you that he has bought his car cash down. He has paid school fees cash down. He has married his wife cash down. So, because of our cultural disposition, we must find a way to be able to detect how and the number and the amount of people. What I think is missing is data, the database. Now, if you get away from all this, in solving and looking at the problem of tax evasion, the next thing you need to be critical about is, why do Nigerians not like to pay tax? Or why do we have a prevalence of tax evasion in our society? There's so many reasons, so many. One of the reasons is that I pay tax, what do I get in return? The answer to that is, payment of tax is not related to an infrastructure you get in return. The second is, even when we're talking about tax evasion, what is the definition of tax? In some other countries, for you to charge a toll gate fee, which is regarded as a tax, you need legislative approval. In other words, there has to be a law approving it. And you also ask the question, some payments are titled as tax, and the question is, are they really tax? If you are traveling, you pay airport tax. Is airport tax in the real sense of it? What are the indices? Does it meet the definitions and the canons of taxation? These are some of the questions you ask. Again, the issue of definition. What is tax avoidance? In a lot of countries, you don't tell people that you are engaged in tax avoidance because of the social stigma that a lot of people now look at it in so many other countries. What practitioners have been able to do is to give a more appealing name to tax avoidance. I'm not going to tell somebody that I'm advising you on tax avoidance. I'm merely telling you how to mitigate your tax liabilities. Or, as we normally say in Nigeria, it is about tax planning. You are doing tax planning. But in essence, the reality of it is avoidance. It is avoidance. Now, because I've made a distinction between what they call acceptable avoidance and unacceptable avoidance. Acceptable avoidance are what you find in the law, tax exemption, tax incentives, and so on and so forth. But the kind of one that a lot of people do not accept is one that is defined under Section 22 of the Companies Income Tax Act, and that is artificial transactions. You look at the law and you tell yourself, I want to sell my house. I built this house for 100 million, but I'm going to sell it for 200 million.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service introduces the tax card to make all tax payment easy for you. Just follow these 7 easy steps. Obtain your taxpayer identification number, TIN, for free at any FIRS office. Get your tax card from your bank. Log on to www.firsonline.com. Then register to obtain a password and access the payment process pages. Fill your TIN number, tax type you're paying, amount payable, and period of payment. Confirm the entries on your transaction. Then print your e-ticket and present at any FIRS office as an evidence of tax paid. It's that simple. For more information, visit www.firs.gov.ng or any FIRS office close to you. FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
Professor Abdulrazak's treatise on tax avoidance, the twin sister of tax evasion, or like he just christened it, tax planning, is a matter for another day. Time will not permit us to dwell on that today. But just in case you've forgotten what we told you at the beginning, that lecture was delivered at the 25th induction ceremony of the CITN, organized to swear in 1,491 men and women into the ranks of tax practitioners in Nigeria. Correspondent Christiana Pius covered the event.
On Thursday, the 17th of November 2011, the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria held the 25th induction ceremony at the National Theatre in Igomu, Lagos. A total number of 1,491 inductees, made up of graduate and direct members, were made associates. The ceremony was well attended by dignitaries, past presidents, and council members of the institute. The special guest of honor, the Controller General of the Nigerian Custom, Alhaji Abdullahi Diko Inde, was represented by the Area Controller, Muritala Mohammed Airport, Mr. M.A. Adewale.
We are tax collectors, so we are all tax people. The major environmental challenge facing the administration of taxation from the Nigeria Customs Service perspective is more of tax evasion than of tax avoidance.
Speaking earlier, the Chairman, Membership and Professional Conduct Committee, Mr. Adiola Adekunle, underscored the importance of the induction ceremony.
After the ceremony today, you'll be presented and admitted into the membership of this noble institute. You will be further acquainted with the institute's expectations. I know during the training, you must have gotten some heads up. As tax professionals, given the rights and obligations conferred as chartered tax practitioners and administrators, you'll be presented to the business community as a group of professionals with expertise in the field of taxation. We will give you instrument of office to earn a living and contribute to the development of taxation in Nigeria, Africa, and world over. It is pertinent to emphasize that this noble institute expects very high level of professionalism coupled with honesty and integrity from all of you. This institute expects fresh ideas for injection. As we know, you are all pregnant with new ideas. It is expected that as new members, these expectations will not run short, given the fact that the institute is striving towards attaining a desired standard that will stand the test of time and uplift the noble ideas of our founding fathers. The journey is still far ahead. As we are mostly aware, taxation is fast becoming very crucial to our national development. CITN is one of the fastest growing, quality-driven professional bodies with increasing membership strength. As of today, we have 1,608 fellows and 9,956 associates. So, totaling membership strength of 11,564. This membership position will be further strengthened and increased by the number of today's inductees.
President of the Institute, Mr. J.F.S. Jegede, spoke about the resolve of the Institute to help in the development of the Nigerian economy by training and retraining the pool of tax professionals to help in the needed push.
CITN, being aware of the renewed emphasis on taxation revenue as a panacea to the involvement of a better economy for our country, deems it appropriate to continuously increase the pool of professionals who will drive the professionalization of Nigeria's tax system in view of the expected benefit derivable from diversifying the country's revenue base. CITN's conviction that an efficient and professionalized tax system portends a lot of benefits informs our continuous emphasis for professionalization of the system. It is no longer news that what is required to drive our economy and assist in the realization of the Millennium Development Goals is a diversification of the economy with emphasis on taxation.
The CITN president emphasized the importance of professional discipline and adherence to the Institute's Code of Conduct by the new members.
As part of Council's effort in ensuring standard and good conduct among members, the Professional Rules and Practice Guideline, PRPG, were launched in December 2009. These guidelines further re-emphasize the need for proper conduct in executing professional assignments. It's my expectation that members will avail themselves of this publication to guide their conduct in the profession. Council is determined to implement the charter of the Institute to the letter by ensuring that only members of the Institute who carry its practicing license are allowed to practice. All legal means shall be used to bring sanity into the tax system in the country, as Nigerians are looking up to us and we cannot afford to fail. I therefore urge members not to be caught on the wrong side of the law. Obtain the practicing license, seal and stamp today to enable you work efficiently and legally too.
Opening formalities over, the distinguished 1,491 men and women stepped forward to be admitted into the exalted membership of the Institute. Outstanding students were also recognized. Particularly outstanding was Oshinaye Oluwatoyin, who won 4 awards at the ceremony. Tax Matters spoke to some of the inductees on their achievements.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You got 4 awards today. How do you feel?
Oh, well, I feel on top of the world. I'm very happy, and I give all the glory to God.
So now that you've been inducted, how do you feel you can contribute to Okota to make the taxation industry a better place?
I believe I have a lot to contribute because as things are, until very recently in Nigeria, the awareness of tax is not that much as, it seems like governments got most of their revenue from the federal allocation and all that. But now, they are awakening to the importance of tax in generating revenue to finance government projects and all that. And it is all new. So many people who had believed hitherto that it is only the people under employment that pay tax, that it doesn't affect market women and all that. So now we have a responsibility to go out there and educate the people on why they should pay their tax.
People should be encouraged by government utilizing the taxes that are paid so that the masses can benefit from, they can see the impact of the taxes paid, good roads, pipe-borne water, electricity. These are the only way the masses can feel it. You can't share the money back to the masses. This is the only way they can feel it. When you provide those enabling provisions, those infrastructures to the masses.
So now you've been inducted, what do you intend to do? How do you plan to make a change in the tax industry?
Well, I think the induction here is a privilege because, one, it exposes me better to the industry I find myself working in. And with that exposure, I think my understanding of the industry will be better, and then my contribution also will be better informed vis-a-vis my role in the service. I'm not a tax inspector. My career path in the service is the human resource career path. But because I work in the tax industry, it is important that I am familiar with at least the basic fundamentals of tax administration. So I think this is a very good opportunity for me, and I think it will impact positively on the way I carry out my job henceforth.
Tax Matters heartily congratulates those brand new taxmen and women, like they will say in the car dealing industry, chassis taxmen and women. And to you, our viewers, we say thank you for watching. Let's do it again next week. Have a good week.